The new year dawned with clear skies over Los Angeles, but a deceptive tranquility soon gave way to chaos. In early January 2025, a scene unfolded that could have been ripped from a disaster film. Wildfires, fueled by drought-stricken vegetation and driven by relentless Santa Ana winds, erupted with terrifying speed. The iconic hillsides, normally a symbol of the city's glamour, transformed into raging infernos. Flames devoured everything in their path, leaving a trail of destruction that stretched for miles. The sky, once a vibrant blue, turned into an apocalyptic canvas of orange and black. The air, thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning, became difficult to breathe. Panicked residents fled their homes, many with only the clothes on their backs. The roar of the flames was punctuated by the shattering of glass and the frantic wail of sirens. Firefighters, stretched thin and battling exhaustion, fought bravely against the inferno. The City of Angels, known for its glitz and glamour, was now a city under siege, its fate hanging precariously in the balance. The first flames ignited in the early hours of January 5, 2025. A small brush fire, sparked by unknown causes, quickly grew into an unstoppable inferno driven by the powerful Santa Ana winds. By nightfall, the fire, dubbed the Eaton Fire, had consumed thousands of acres in the hills above Los Angeles. Simultaneously, another blaze, the Palisades Fire, erupted in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood, adding to the chaos and stretching firefighting resources even thinner. As the days progressed, the fires continued their relentless march. Erratic winds pushed the flames in unpredictable directions, making containment efforts extremely difficult. By January 10th, over 9,000 structures had been reduced to ashes, including homes, businesses, and historical landmarks. The death toll tragically climbed, with at least 10 confirmed fatalities, a number feared to rise as search and rescue teams combed through the charred remains. The economic impact was staggering, with early estimates placing the damages between $52 and $57 billion, potentially making it the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. As the crisis unfolded, political leaders and prominent figures responded with a mix of shock and determination. Governor Gavin Newsom, after touring the devastated areas, pledged the full support of the state's resources. He ordered an immediate investigation into the water supply issues that hampered firefighting efforts, including reports of dry hydrants and the offline status of the Santa Ynez Reservoir. President Biden, addressing the nation from the Oval Office, expressed his condolences and promised swift federal aid to assist with recovery efforts. He also drew a direct link between the fires and the growing threat of climate change, urging Americans to take the issue seriously. "This is a wake-up call," he declared. "Climate change is real, and it's already impacting communities across our nation." Closer to home, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass faced criticism for being abroad when the fires first erupted. Upon her return, she took charge of the city's response, overseeing evacuation efforts and coordinating relief distribution. She also addressed the criticism, acknowledging the need for improved communication and emergency preparedness in the future.
In the age of social media, the Los Angeles fires became a stark example of the double-edged sword of digital information. On one hand, platforms like Twitter and Instagram became lifelines for those affected by the disaster. Hashtags like #LaFires and #CaliforniaStrong connected victims with volunteers, facilitated donations, and amplified calls for help. Celebrities, including Leonardo DiCaprio and Kim Kardashian, used their massive platforms to raise awareness, share resources, and encourage donations to relief organizations.
However, the digital landscape also became a breeding ground for misinformation and outright denial. AI-generated images of the fires, often manipulated to exaggerate the scale of the disaster or depict entirely fabricated scenes, flooded social media feeds. Conspiracy theories, fueled by these fabricated images and baseless claims, spread like wildfire, alleging that the fires were a hoax or a deliberate act of arson. These false narratives, often disguised as legitimate news, sowed confusion, undermined trust in official sources, and hampered relief efforts.
The physical scars left by the Los Angeles fires were impossible to ignore. Neighborhoods once vibrant with life were reduced to ash and rubble. Iconic landmarks, now mere skeletons of their former glory, served as grim reminders of the fire's destructive power. The economic toll was staggering, with businesses destroyed, livelihoods upended, and the city facing a long and arduous road to recovery.
But the fires also inflicted deep emotional wounds. Thousands of residents lost their homes, their possessions, and in some cases, their loved ones. The trauma of fleeing for their lives, the uncertainty of displacement, and the long process of rebuilding their lives weighed heavily on the community's collective psyche. The fires served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating power of nature.
The environmental impact was equally alarming. The fires released tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, further contributing to climate change. Runoff from the burned areas carried ash, debris, and potentially hazardous materials into waterways, threatening water quality and marine life. The destruction of vegetation and wildlife habitat had long-term consequences for the region's biodiversity and ecosystem. While the flames may have subsided, the Los Angeles fires left behind a toxic legacy that continued to impact the region long after the last embers were extinguished. The air, thick with smoke and particulate matter for weeks after the fires were contained, posed significant health risks, particularly for children, the elderly, and those with respiratory conditions. Schools were forced to close, outdoor activities were cancelled, and hospitals saw a surge in patients experiencing respiratory problems.
The Los Angeles fires of 2025 were a tragedy of immense proportions, but they also served as a stark wake-up call. The fires exposed the vulnerability of our infrastructure, the dangers of climate change, and the importance of reliable information in the digital age. But amidst the ashes, there were also glimmers of hope. The resilience of the human spirit shone through in the acts of courage, compassion, and community that emerged from the disaster. Now, more than ever, we must heed the lessons learned from this tragedy. We must invest in fire-resistant infrastructure, prioritize climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies, and combat the spread of misinformation. We must support those who lost everything and work together to rebuild a more resilient and sustainable future. The road to recovery will be long and challenging, but it is a journey we must undertake together. The future of Los Angeles, and indeed the future of our planet, depends on the choices we make today. Let us honor the memory of those lost in the fires by building a safer, more resilient, and more sustainable world for generations to come.